Yeah, generative AI. That's it's so impressive and exciting, and that's what we are here to talk about today. So welcome everyone to NTA311, transforming how generative AI is transforming legal tech with AWS. My name is Pallavi Nargund. I'm a principal solutions architect at AWS, and I'm also a chief technologist for the legal tech community within AWS. Joined with me today is John Motz, CTO of NetDocuments, and Olta Alushi, who is also a co-founder of legal tech community within AWS. Olta, over to you.
Thank you, Pallavi. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here with all of you for the next hour. We'll be talking about the legal industry, the landscape, and the technology adoption within legal industry. And then John here will walk us through the innovative journey with generative AI and AWS within NetDocuments. And then Pallavi will close us with use cases in legal tech and reference architectures. Imagine a future where the legal technology and legal industry is revolutionized by the generative AI. Picture all these tedious tasks being automated, allowing legal professionals to focus on the most important aspects of their profession. Think of legal research being not just faster, but smarter and more comprehensive than ever before. Data in the 21st century is the equivalent of gold in the 19th century. And through artificial intelligence, we have been able to open up new data sources that were not reachable before. Imagine legal profession undergoing a transformation as revolutionary as other industries have seen, like finance or healthcare, where through AI-assisted research, we have been able to expand to global markets, introduce instantaneous payments, improve customer experience, and even extend our lifespans. Now imagine the same innovative spirit applied to law. But what if we could amplify the capabilities, shortening the contract drafting that it takes lawyers or legal professionals to do today, or the way that how much time it takes them to predict cases? Up to 44% of legal tasks today, based on research, can be automated, which is a figure that outstrips many other industries. So this can actually be done. The real magic, though, of generative AI is in freeing the legal professionals to focus on the most human aspects of their profession, and that is to exercise empathy, strategy, and advocacy. But let's first define legal tech. Legal tech is a combination of digital tools, software, and applications that get applied to legal companies, and that includes law firms, legal counsels within large corporations, to boost the productivity, to enhance the value of their legal services, and to reduce cost, all through the automation of legal workflow. When it comes to applying technology within the industry, we first want to understand its challenges. Technology set up today should be able to support processing large documents of unstructured text of any size and form. And that setup has to be enabling the end users, not creating a bottleneck. The second is balancing skill and value. We have seen a growing concern with devaluation of legal skills. As we know, as an example, junior lawyers spend a lot of time doing research, contract drafting, and other legal tasks. And the question becomes, how does the next generation of lawyers, for instance, gain that practical experience if automation is in the loop? And how do law firms, in fact, justify work like billing for work that now gets implemented by machines? The third concern that we see is with data privacy and security. And we know that legal companies handle sensitive information. That goes from corporate data to client data, And as this data gets digitized and moves to the cloud, there is a growing perception that risk of data breaches also grows exponentially. But in fact, the data shows that organizations that have reported data breaches within the cloud environments, they are attributing those breaches to human error and misconfiguration of cloud environments. And the last one is the challenge with productivity. That is a complex one to execute. But what it means in itself is reducing the time it takes for you to do these repeatable, mundane tasks. And if you don't select the right systems, the right architecture, and the technology to complement that legal workflow, productivity may actually decline. At AWS, we believe that technology should enhance, not replace, the human elements of the legal practice. In legal tech, there is this concept of a flywheel, which is this idea that the small initial effort leads to significant positive outcome over time. After each revolution, we see positive ROI and positive outcome for customers that implement their process, their data, and their people against this flywheel concept. Let's illustrate that concept through a document handling approach. We start by mapping document repositories, organizing and centralizing this data so that it is searchable by everyone in the organization. Then we process this with natural language processing to understand its content, and then we extract the metadata from it to better organize it. Then third, we add the AI and machine learning capabilities to it to analyze patterns and to learn to create systems that actually learn contextually what that data actually represents. And so at the end of the day, there is a system that gets deployed for legal professionals to now run very complex queries against this data set, and that produces this precise, context-aware responses in a matter of minutes. And as we said, after each revolution, the ROI improves over time. And the customers that have worked with AWS and AWS technologies, they tell us that they see contract generation completion within hours versus weeks, and productivity improvement by up to 15%. But your numbers here could be different. Your use cases could be different. Let's talk now for a little bit about why legal customers choose to work with AWS. For 18 years, AWS has been delivering cloud services to millions of customers around the world in a variety of use cases and workloads. The AWS region and availability model is recognized by Gartner as the recommended approach to run enterprise applications with high availability. And the 108 availability zones, 34 regions that are available today, give you the opportunity to run enterprise applications across the globe, especially when you have to abide to country data residency laws. AWS is the most secure, with 300 plus security services around compliance and governance, and that includes features, as well as supporting 143 security standards and certifications. AWS Cloud is sovereign by design, and we will talk more about this in a little bit. But what that means is that our pledge to digital sovereignty allows us to build services and features that meet always the customer's regulatory requirements. And we are at the forefront of generative AI with 100,000 plus customers already using AI and ML services. Now, when it comes to generative AI, our mission is to democratize generative AI by offering flexibility and choice for our customers that want to run workloads in production. And we look at generative AI in 3 layers of a stack. And we'll go deeper on this in a little bit as well. When it comes to deploying generative AI in production, at the bottom of the stack, we see models where we provide AWS-built silicon chips so that you can train models from the ground up, but in a more cost-effective way. That is applicable to training and inference type workloads as well. In the middle of the stack, we provide you a secure way to build and scale applications leveraging leading AI, generative AI, or large foundation models so that you can switch between these large language models made available through our Amazon Bedrock service, which you may have heard multiple times throughout the week. And that is our fully managed service, which in very short terms gives you the ability to switch between models. You can customize these models for better performance and even allow it to do automated tasks without writing any code. And at the top of the stack, we have applications that use these large language models, but that help you to get up and running pretty quickly. So all you have to do is point your data sources to the application, and then you can ask it questions, create content, or even add additional actions that you want it to take, all while leveraging the intelligence that exists in your data, in your organization's data repositories. Now, we talked about security, privacy, and responsible AI. That is at the top of our priorities when it comes to working with legal tech customers. And we place this in the forefront of every technology that we build. Any architecture and any service that you place on AWS inherits the same security standards that we build. We provide that enterprise-grade security, meaning that anything, like we said, is built on AWS inherits that. And we give you full control of the data, full control of your data, while also giving you options to enable encryption keys, to manage encryption keys, and in addition, apply data protection policies across your data's journey in your organization. Our identity management system also allows you to enable and manage user access policies so that you can enable tight controls over who accesses which data and when. When you customize, and this is important, a foundational model, your data does not leave your virtual private cloud on AWS, and it does not get used to update that base foundational model. And we'll talk more about this in a little bit. Now, at the beginning of the session, we talked about reimagining document handling. And we also talked about why customers choose to work with AWS. And they say that they need security, privacy, the right performance, the right cost structure, and the right solutions that are relevant to their business. Having said that, I would like to introduce John Motz on stage, CTO of NetDocuments.
Thanks, Olta. So I'm gonna start with a little bit of context about NetDocuments. If you don't know NetDocuments, we've been around 20 plus or so years. I've been here as CTO for about 2 years. We're all over the world. We're global, six regions, doing business in many countries around those regions. About 5,000 firms, although we're adding, it seems like several a day, frankly. So we're growing pretty rapidly right now. There was a big push into cloud services through the pandemic with legal. It saw a very big burst relative to some industries that had already shifted to cloud quite a bit before then. 185,000 users globally, and that's legal professionals, assistants, things like that. Over 8 billion documents, and that's greater than 20 billion files. And so we're adding millions and millions of files every day with our customer base into the platform. 21 petabytes of data, although, again, this changes almost every single day. I think most importantly, and probably most impressive for me, is we're doing roughly about 650 million transactions a day. And so when you think about the platform, as a legal professional, you get a document, you get a new case, you get a new matter. The first thing you're doing is ingesting that document into your document management system. So every single day you're interacting. Once it's in the system, every piece of your workflow is running through our platform, whether you're checking it in, checking it out, editing it, changing it, sharing it, all runs through the NetDocuments platform. And then we are ingesting quite a bit. And so when you think about the process, and you'll see some of this coming up in the slides, It's not just about storing a document. We do a lot of processing, a lot of metadata extraction and creation on that document, and we're doing about 25 million new documents a day through that process, which is pretty incredible, frankly. As you think about that, the legal space started with this foundation, and it's been pretty much the same for 15 or 20 years within document management. And for the first time in a long time, we're seeing that change. And so first and foremost, lexical search. So if you're a legal professional and you're looking for something in a document system, and think about this, a large firm could have literally hundreds of millions of documents in their document management system. You have to be able to find it. And lexical search is how we've done it for years. I can tell you in talking to our customers, the holy grail for them has been semantic search. It's just really been out of reach, and it's been out of reach for reasons tied to cost, the ability to even actually process and manage it well, and then it is a change, and sometimes change can be challenging. I think the generative AI push that has happened in the last year is changing the expectations for professionals, and particularly legal professionals. They want to find items as they would ask for them naturally, and that's what we're seeing. And so a pretty significant change moving to semantic search, and it's deep within our roadmap and what we're already delivering today. Beyond that is this concept of check in and check out. And if you are a legal professional, you know what this is. If you're not a legal professional, this is essentially putting a document into the system and taking a document out. In the legal world, it's a lot more complex, though, because there's controls, very tight controls. A big part of our platform is being able to have permissions, rights, authorizations, not just for people working within the firm or the corporate legal, but also customers as well as counsel outside that you have to share documents with. So checking in and checking out is a very, very important part of the architecture as well as the platform. What we're seeing, though, is that is getting to a point where we want co-authoring. We want to be able to work in a document at the same time. We don't want to have to check things in and out in multiple copies. And some documents in a document management system could have thousands of versions, depending on how long the case or the matter ran. We want to move to co-authoring. This is, again, an expectation our customers have. And then security. We've already talked about this. Critical for AWS. Frankly, it's one of the primary reasons we've chosen AWS for our cloud strategy. For us, security is paramount. These are the most sensitive documents that you can find in the world, frankly. You have to make sure they're secure. I think the thing that is really interesting right now from a security perspective is it's evolving to include AI. And so you're going to see here in a few minutes how we're leveraging AI within our document management workflow. What's getting really, really interesting is now AI is doing things like generating content for legal professionals. It's analyzing documents for legal professionals. We need to understand what the AI is actually analyzing. We need to understand what the AI is authoring. We need to understand when changes are being made by AI and ensure we apply the same security we've applied to users for the last 2 decades to AI within the platform. So critical part for us. So when you think about that, in NetDocuments, we're shifting our thinking. Document management with workflow is what we've been doing, again, for 2 decades plus. Where we're evolving to is this concept of an intelligent and simple platform. And when you think about that, a lot of customers and a lot of companies, frankly, and if you literally walk through reInvent, you'll see, I'm guessing, a couple hundred companies that are solving AI for a very niche problem. We think about AI across the entire platform. And so we're building the platform to enable AI in every aspect of the workflow. We want this to be a workflow engine driven by AI and data that delivers a very, very intelligent and smart experience. And so what you'll see a little bit of us solving niche problems as we started this, call it late last year. Where it's moving to very rapidly with AWS is this underlying data platform that drives an intelligent experience and an AI experience through every single workflow. So why AWS? I've got to touch on this. This is a relatively new journey for us. We're 12-ish months into our push into AWS. And it was a pretty big decision for us. So imagine a company 20 years plus running in a private environment for many, many years since day one. Proprietary encryption, entropic encryption that we built 20 so years ago. big HSMs everywhere securing all of our data and content. So a pretty big change for us. When you think about this, and Ulta touched on this as well, I want to touch on a couple things. Mainly, my data is a little wrong with 99. It's apparently 108. It's probably 112 now. But the level of cultural matching that we had with AWS and our team internally was astounding. And when you look at these metrics, they're all impressive. The regions, the security, the ecosystem. For us, it was AWS really thinks like us. They think about innovating quickly. The fact that we're here every year, and I literally was typing emails yesterday after the keynote to my team. We got to do this. We're going to do that. Let's pivot over here. You have to be able to do that. And if you want to stay viable and you want to meet the customer's needs, which is what we're here to do as a company, we needed that kind of a partner. So a lot of great capabilities drove us to AWS. I think if I had to pick one, I would lean deeply into security. When you think about the security model that AWS is using and the ability to secure at the silicon level, the ability to isolate security down to single data elements and objects is really, really important for us. And we felt by a long, long margin, the future state and the kind of the forward thinking from a security perspective was critical, absolutely critical. So what does this mean? How is this changing how we're building? Where are we applying this over the last year to build this platform, this intelligent platform? And I think of three things. I think of data-driven experiences, I think of right tools for the job, and then I think of nurturing a culture of innovation. And when you think about data-driven experiences, for me, it's about flexibility. And I just talked about sending the email to the team yesterday. We have to have a platform that can adapt to technologies and be able to move quickly. And so we're building an architecture with AWS that will allow us to switch to their mesh framework when it comes out, because we asked for it about 7 months ago. And we love that. And we want to be able to take advantage of it and not take 9 months to do that or even a year or more. And so the architecture is built for that. We need to be flexible. We need to be responsive, and not as in a UI and stretching across screens. We need to, someone got that. We need to be able to respond to the customer's needs as we understand how they're using the platform, right? Because we're introducing new experiences, we're introducing AI into our workflows. We're learning a ton right now. We're understanding how customers are using the platform. We've got to be able to respond to that behavior and change how the data is driving the experience. And then scale. And scale, again, I'm not talking about EC2s and Fargate. I'm talking about being able to scale the organization and the technology, because there's too many new things that are coming at us. We've got to be able to scale and move fast. And so for us, this is organizational structure, how we organized our teams. And we shifted over the last 2 years from teams of about 10 or so, in some cases even a little larger, most of them tightly coupled with dependencies. And we're shifting the models where our teams are as small as 4 to 5. We have incredible adoption of AI-generated code that's being embedded in our workflows with our development teams to get more scale from smaller teams and more efficiencies. Critical part for us being successful over the next few years. Right tools for the job, event-driven architecture. And I'm not saying we don't believe in APIs anymore. We definitely believe in APIs, but we are leveraging Amazon to build an event-driven architecture, because we're moving away from the response request model in our platform and our applications. We want to be able to take those events, understand what our customers and users have done in the system, and trigger actions and jobs. And you'll see some of those here in a few minutes without any intervention from the customer or the user. That's incredibly important when you think about leveraging generative AI in the workflow. You've got to be able to be proactive and reacting to those events versus waiting for someone to take action. AI and automation, again, another big part for us. Our company as a whole, outside of what we're doing with our customers, we are looking at AI and automation across every segment of our business. We think it's that important. And we're leveraging that to work faster. We're leveraging that to deliver better metrics to our customers, better metrics to our operations team, so we can manage the environments better with AWS. Very, very important part of what we're doing here. It's interesting when you think about AI and automation, you have to be comfortable picking up new and different tools that you haven't used before to run your business. And sometimes that can be a little hard, and frankly, you have to account for that cost model because you're going to have that overlap. But I can tell you our experience is once you make that call and you get into that new world, it becomes so much better. You get much more efficient, and you get past that overlap cost very quickly. And I think the thing that's, for me, that's really been insightful with our teams is they're actually happier employees. They're able to do their jobs better with higher quality and higher efficiency. The last one here, not very important at all, it's just the cloud service partners like AWS. We couldn't do this without AWS. There's no way we could. And our decision to move into AWS was really simple. We couldn't keep up. We couldn't keep a private environment anywhere close to the level of innovation we're going to get from AWS. And again, you don't have to look any further than this event this week to see that. Nurturing a culture of innovation. So it's interesting. I built this slide and it said adopting a culture of innovation. And my CEO corrected me and he said, well, we've been innovative for 20 years. And so we made a tune there, but it really is the truth. I mean, we came up with entropic encryption 20 years ago, which is pretty darn innovative. We were doing cloud document management when most people were doing on-premise. And so it is true. We are definitely an innovative company and an innovative group. It's really important to understand we do that through engaging with customers. And I think a lot of people lose sight of how important that is. Our engineering teams spend time with our customers. Our engineering teams go through the same product training and onboarding training that our customers and partners go through. We're organized for agility. We're a company of empowered engineering and operations and design. We want our teams to go figure out the problems and then literally build 3 or 4 concepts and see which one works, see which one doesn't work, and make decisions that way. We move very, very fast for an organization our size. And I think generally we're doing daily releases on most of our applications. And then we push our teams to challenge the status quo. And this is going to sound a lot like Amazon, and it's not a surprise. Like we have adopted a lot of the same core values. I want to hear the challenges. I want to hear why the solution that we created 15 years ago that was incredible at the time isn't good enough today. And so we're not just building new applications, we're reinventing and reimagining the problems we solved 10 or 20 years ago based on the technology that's available today, a critical part of how we're building and how we're innovating. All right, so what does that leave us with? It's pretty straightforward. Maximum performance, maximum security, maximum innovation, and maximum value. And really, that is the number one objective for us in that partnership with Amazon. Very straightforward goals, very straightforward targets, which I also think is really critical for getting your team centered in moving forward. So the last slide around Amazon and how we're doing this, if you will, I wanted to talk about why Amazon. And this is a screenshot of our kind of an analysis evaluation. And I always joke with our Amazon rep. I don't think they ever thought the deal was going to close. We went through the ringer on the analysis to the point where we were building our infrastructure during the evaluation. This wasn't a PowerPoint slide exercise for us. We built the new data objects. We built all the new EC2 instances. We ran them at scale as well. We had a lot of sizing done. So again, we're a year into this. We got to a 90% accuracy on our cost to run, and so far holding true to that. Frankly, it's come down a little bit because of some of the Graviton releases that have happened since we made the decision. We also really looked at a cloud partner. And for me, taking an organization that has never run in public cloud, you can't just turn an organization over. These are incredibly talented people, but there's also a learning curve. And so we were very, very explicit in saying we're going to resource this with a critical partner for about 50% of our resource allocation, and then train up and create a bridge for our existing team. Really, really cool to see if you're looking at the data that I look at. As of now, 95% of our existing team within CTO, which is Operations, Engineering, Security, have taken and have been certified with AWS in the first year, which is incredible. Frankly, the fastest I've ever seen it happen. I've done this more than a couple times. And so we give them the platform and the ability to learn and grow along their journey, not expecting them to be AWS experts on day one. And then the last thing I would say is the architecture. We really wanted to understand what the complete architecture was going to look like before we started doing the work. And it was really important for us because it allowed us to make very thoughtful decisions around what we're going to do first. And a lot of folks go after the easy stuff first. We did the exact opposite. We went after the 4 hardest things that we knew we had to get after because we knew we were going to pivot. We knew we were going to find changes we want to make. We knew we were going to struggle, frankly. And so we figured if we can knock off the 4 hardest aspects of our architecture and our platform in year 1, the second year would be pretty easy. And sure enough, that's where we are. We're fighting through some of that stuff right now, but we're also doing it the right way. And we're not sacrificing the architecture for time. We're very focused on building it the right way and leveraging our well-architected reviews and our Amazon partners to do that, which is pretty incredible. Okay, so I'm going to jump in to AI in action. So as you think about the cloud journey, keep in mind we didn't just shut down a roadmap. Like we can't do that. We're a business. We have customer needs. We have a space with Gen AI that is exploding right now, and so we had to get after a roadmap at the same time. So we're literally doing our cloud transformation with our existing platform and building new capabilities in parallel. And so when you think about AI, which for us is one of the biggest markets we've seen open up in the last 20 years. Real quick award here. We have an application, Pattern Builder Max. And this is pretty cool. This is not a solicited media. This is just someone that went to a conference, saw Scott Kelly, who leads our AI group, demoing Pattern Builder Max, and was just blown away by it. And this is a tough, if you're in legal, you know this is a tough space. It's got to be right. It's got to work. It's got to make the job easier, or else no one's ever going to adopt it. And so just some really cool accolades. Best artificial intelligence for 2024, which is a pretty big deal. I think if you went to a legal tech conference this year, there's probably 600 legal tech pop-ups that have happened. And so to win that award was pretty awesome. When you think about Pattern Builder Max and some of the value, I'm going to click through this real quick. A couple things we can do. We're plugged into an LLM. I love the comment yesterday with Matt, how important choice was. And so we're building models and we're building applications, but we're also allowing our customers to bring their own models and applications as well. And so if you think about Pattern Builder Max, it allows you as a user, as a no-code solution, to build custom applications. And so if you're an immigration firm and you have 35 documents that you have to do for every single person that's coming in for a visa or an immigration application, you can build an application with Pattern Builder that'll automate that form creation, automate that form completion for you, and literally take what would normally be several hours, if not a couple of days, down to 20 or 30 minutes. You can actually auto-profile data now with us. And so when you think about the auto-profiling, you have a document, and in the current day, if you go backwards, documents had very limited metadata. Most of it was human generated, and so the quality was generally lacking or poor. Very at least it was inconsistent across the firm. And so we're now leveraging LLMs as well as some of our vectorized data with Titan and Semantic to auto-profile documents at scale. Think about dropping 1 million documents in the document management system, and you have a consistent taxonomy that can literally update hundreds of metadata fields on every single document within literally a few minutes. And you have that consistency that, frankly, legal professionals have been looking for decades. Incredible value and incredible time savings. Doing this in the background as well. And so up until about a month ago, you could run an application, you could select documents. We can now run an application against your entire corpus of data. And so the days of having to select 10 or 20 or 100 documents are moving away. Our customers' expectations are changing. We need to be able to run this at scale across their entire corpus of documents. And again, some of those customers, that's 100 million documents or more. I'm going to give you an example here. I glossed over redlining, which is probably the coolest thing we're doing right now, so I shouldn't do that. We are now getting to a place where we are redlining documents with generative AI. And so when you think about that, think of an attorney. They have certain ways of writing contracts or writing summaries or briefs. The AI can understand that. It will actually auto-redline the documents, something a legal assistant would typically do, send it back to the partner to review, accept changes, and streamline that process. You're talking about, in some cases, 2 or 3 steps of editing and redlining that are being done now with generative AI, which is pretty incredible. So I wanted to give you an example here, just a quick screenshot. Normally, we demo this, but I made a rule 20 years ago to never do live demos. So what you have here is the typical old way, manual, limited, somewhat inaccurate. In the new way, you can see here some of the examples of the metadata. And this is a leasing contract. And think about this in a firm. You have these management companies that will have thousands, potentially tens of thousands of contracts. They have rules, they have compliance, they have parameters like what's my out clause. A lot of these companies are acquiring contracts through acquisition. This simple auto profiling capability will allow someone to run those contracts in bulk. It'll flag exceptions within the contracts that they need to have an attorney look at. So out of 100,000 contracts, these 15 have a really, really bad exit clause. You need to go look at this and potentially repaper. Just a simple example where this would take weeks for a firm to dig through. That's happening in just a few minutes. And then it's streamlining risk. It's actually reducing the risk within the firm dramatically by flagging and automating that process. So at the end of the day, the next big thing for us, Pattern Builder Max has been amazing. We've got a lot of customers using it. Where we see the kind of the sphere tipping over a little bit is the AI assistant, this agent-to-agent conversation. And so, and Pallavi is going to talk to the details and which we need to get to. For us, it's a simple front door. There is a learning curve with AI, and what we found with our adoption is the fast adopters are leaned in, but there's a large segment of people that are still a little nervous about AI. And so we need that door to be wide open. It needs to be a very simple, wide open door. Conversational threads are what people like. It's what they do. They're used to doing that now. It's a pretty common practice. I joked 2 years ago, my wife would have never used Siri, and now she doesn't send a text that's not Siri-based. And the world is getting much more comfortable with that conversational-based interaction. And then safe and secure. We have a saying in NetDocuments, we're going to bring AI to your documents. We're not going to push your documents to AI. So keeping the AI services within our platform and contained within our walls that we've built, literally the most secure walls you're going to see for a document management system, we want the AI inside, not outside. So it's a critical part of our strategy. Okay, last thing. I want to give you a couple examples of the legal AI assistant. And we have this in beta right now. It's just getting out the door. Ask a question. Are there the key man provisions in the PSA? What are the remedies on breach? What are the non-compete and non-solicit provisions in the agreement? Can you give me a timeline of the facts presented in the documents? We're doing this now at scale, and the results are incredible. And the reason the results are incredible, we're not just connecting to an LLM, because you saw today, like the LLMs change every single week. They're getting better. It's like a foot race. We did something very unique, and Pallavi is going to walk you through the technology here. We're leveraging vectorized data with Titan, with semantic data, with Elastic, with the LLM services as a kind of a trifecta to analyze the documents and provide responses back. Very unique right now. And the results and the quality of the results are through the roof. It's allowing us to get to a place where we can do redlining with accuracy that lawyers will trust. Last thing to say here, October we launched this in October of last year. We have 6,000 apps that have been created by our customers. We're averaging 30 new apps a week within our customers, and we're doing 6,000 sessions a week on this platform. So we're seeing rapid adoption. And if there's any question of are customers going to adopt generative AI in legal, I think we've answered the question in spades. They're adopting, and they're adopting very, very quickly. All right, Pallavi, I went long. I apologize, so I hope we give you enough time.
Thank you very much, John. Actually, that was a fantastic journey of your cloud journey, migrating to AWS, as well as innovations in the document management space. So Olta and John covered a lot about challenges in the legal industry and how especially within the legal industry, the documents or unstructured data is the core object. And we saw the challenges that these are in massive amount of scale. I was actually zapped by the scale. It's billions of documents in a year that we are talking about. So imagine searching through such document scale and bringing that as a forefront to the user so that they can converse naturally with those documents, as well as honoring the security permissions, because that's going to be super important. So this is where we are seeing a lot of use cases that are being asked by our customers, and we broadly categorize those into 3 categories. The first one is summarization, and shortly, John talked about the legal assistant, and there was, you can summarize contracts where you need to understand what are the agreements and where are the risk areas that are associated with it, or generating case summary is very critical in the legal research field. So summarizing the document, having generative AI summarize that document for you and make it accessible to your users saves a lot of amount of time for the legal professionals. So the key here is optimizing your legal processes and then improving legal professionals' capability. We talked about legal AI assistant a slide ago, where idea is you have these massive amount of documents, you make them searchable. And when you are at that scale, just writing semantic search and making those accessible is a huge amount of task. And that is where we are using the generative AI advancements. And it's not just searching through the documents, but it is conversing in a natural-like flow. So the idea here is to turn matter management into knowledge management. You need to be able to get good handle on the amount of unstructured data or matters that you have and make that categorized, well-organized, and searchable. The third use case, broad category that we see is the text generation, and you would have seen this is mainly about if you have standardized templates, you can draft standardized contracts or even RFI processes. The goal here is to remove that undifferentiated heavy lifting and prepare or automate the workflows in such a way that you are able to create the draft versions of documents. Now remember, one thing we will be very cautious here, or one thing we follow the principle for legal professionals is your documents need to be, first of all, honor all the permissions. It needs to follow the permissions that you are allowed to within the data. The context accuracy is extremely important. They are very context-aware documents. And again, we are giving you the draft document so that the legal professionals can use their expertise, review the document, and provide the final human-in-the-loop picture. So we did talk a lot about generative AI and LLMs and foundation models, but let's put that into perspective just quickly yet. So generative AI, again, is a subset of deep learning model where you are using large pre-trained models, which are foundation models, to create new content or ideas. And large language models, LLMs, that we kept referring to, are subset of or the specific foundation models that cater towards text generation or text-related tasks. Now, a quick poll to the audience. How many of you are building generative AI applications today? OK, I see quite a few hands raised. How many of you are training your users to write better prompts? OK, all right. So we all know that we cannot use the foundation models as the large language models as is. They need to be customized. And this is where you're familiar with these 4 different steps. I'm just going to quickly walk through them. So you start always with the prompt engineering, where you specify specific instructions on how to tailor the output of the foundation model for your needs. The second one is the retrieval augmented generation, where the key here is to identify the right or relevant context from large corpus of data, and it's not just one data source, you may have multiple data sources. So you want to get the right context from those large corpus of data and then augment your prompt with the relevant information. However, sometimes what happens is RAG architecture is not enough. Sometimes you don't get the model performance that you're looking for. Either it could suffer, it may not meet the accuracy needs of your use case, or it could be related to latency or both. In those cases, we have seen our customers take small amount of data and adjust the foundation model's weights in such a way that you are creating a specialized a model with specialized tasks, but again, retaining the underlying generative capabilities. So that's where you would fine-tune or pre-train the underlying foundation model. There are certain cases where that is also not enough. It's either the foundation model has biases that doesn't work for your use case, or you have large amount of private data that is not being seen by these models when they were being trained. And in those cases, you would go for training the model from scratch. Now remember, as you're going through all these steps, the time, cost, and complexity increases, but it also increases the accuracy. So we encourage you to look at what your use case is, evaluate the different steps, and then use the right methodology to customize the foundation model. So let's take a look at the generative AI stack. And Altha talked about it at length, that we do have the generative AI stack that's divided into 3 macro layers. And there is infrastructure layer, where Altha went into details about Trinium and Inferentia, and you saw the announcements that came in yesterday with Matt. And Amazon SageMaker. So Amazon SageMaker is actually in the infrastructure layer here, because just having the right chipset is a good thing, but you need to have additional capabilities such as distributed training, automated model tuning, et cetera. So this is where Amazon SageMaker, which is our managed service to build, train, and deploy models at scale, has these features such as distributed training, where it can handle large amount of data, and then give you options to flexibly deploy these models, as well as responsible AI features and MLOps. So we did talk about but majority of our customers do want to build with existing foundation models, and that's where Amazon Bedrock comes into picture. Now, Amazon Bedrock, Altha went into detail about this. It's our managed service where you do get a choice of large foundation, selection of foundation models to choose from. And these are foundation models from leading model providers, as well as there are features that can help you build your generative AI application. And then on top is the applications that leverage the LLMs or FMs, which means these applications are completely built for you. Sometimes it may happen that you may not have the specialized skills to build the generative AI applications, or it could be that you just want to explore the data set real quickly. There is a new data source, you want to see what the data source looks like. Instead of building a generative AI application, you can use what is already built in. So this is where Amazon Q comes into picture. It can help you get that access to the enterprise data, again, with the right level of permission, and that is where Amazon Q security comes into picture. So Amazon Q security, the way it is built, is if user doesn't have access to data outside of Q, the user will not have access to the data inside of Q, and that's already built in. So you integrate with your data sources and get started with Amazon Q. Again, Amazon Q helps you interact with your enterprise data, as well as generate code, create generative dashboards. So there are a lot of features that Amazon Q offers. So let's take a look at our architectures. I mean, we are going to talk about few architecture patterns, but before that, I want to quickly highlight the Bedrock features that we will be using to go through those architectures. So one of the core principles that we believe in is to give our customers, our core value is mainly to give you model choice, data privacy, and customization. So from model choice perspective, John touched upon this a little bit earlier, that it's a race. There are new models that are always coming into picture, and no one model fits all use cases. So we want our customers to have a choice. So using Amazon Bedrock, you have a choice to select from the leading foundation model providers, such as Anthropic. We have Meta, we have Cohere, and this slide is already outdated because we have announced our own model yesterday that Nova came into picture. So this is where, I mean, it is like it's just a day old, and my slide is already outdated. So this is what the fast innovation that is happening in this space. So we want you to have the access to the right model that meets your cost, security, and latency requirement. This is going to be the key when you want to choose a foundation model that works for you. Think about the accuracy requirement, think about how much it's going to cost you, and think about the security practices. Having a choice of model is great, but what about security? And that's the common question. That's the first question we always get asked. So first thing is first, none of your data will be used by any of this foundation model to train, to better their models. So that's the first thing. Bedrock is built on the security principle. Other thing that, of course, the data that, just like any other services, the data is encrypted in transit and at rest, as well as it does have the permissions, the right set of permissions that you have with other AWS services also. So there's a specific control that you can define on what features are accessible. Responsible AI, we cannot move forward without talking about responsible AI. So definitely want to talk about Amazon guardrails, Bedrock guardrails. Now, Bedrock guardrails provide you additional safeguards that are built on top of the foundation model providers. So using short natural description, it helps you define certain topics that are that should be avoided by your generative AI application. And then you can also the guardrails also help you detect and block user inputs and foundation model responses that fall into those specific topics. The other thing I want to highlight, I mean, you can also define, you can also control thresholds where you are controlling, where you are protecting against the harmful content, jailbreak, or the prompt ingestion attack. The other thing I want to highlight is the guardrails. You define them once, and then they are model agnostic. That means you can really configure it with any model which is offered within Bedrock. And again, Bedrock offers a number of features, and those are the guardrail integration is native to those features. So we're going to go through reference architectures for a couple of use cases and how we build using Bedrock features. But the first important point that I want to talk about is RAG in action. And how many of you are building applications with RAG architecture? OK. So let's jump through a little bit of details. So RAG typically has two workflows. A lot of times I hear complaints from my customers that, well, the RAG is, our documents are not coming out well, there's some accuracy issues, et cetera. So I highly recommend the customers looking at their data ingestion workflow closely. Why? Let's take a look at that. So we talked about earlier, there are large number of documents, and the goal here is to make those documents available via semantic search. In those cases, when you want to make such documents available via semantic search, there are certain processes or decision points that are involved. The first thing you would do is you want to put these documents in a vectorized database. Now, you cannot put that entire document, which is 500 pages sometimes, it cannot go in the vectorized database as is. So it has to be chunked, which means there is specific paragraphs, a specific text that is going to be chunked, and that's how it is going to be then embedded into a vector representation and goes into the vector store. So there are document chunking, choosing the right embedding model, and choosing the right vector store for your use case are going to be the key decision points that you have to make. And this is where I have seen majority of the times the document accuracy suffers when you are building the RAG architectures. In the legal space, the documents that are going to come in, they are going to come in various formats. They are going to be PDFs, they are going to be Words, they are going to be text files, they're PDFs, scanned PDFs, they're not laid out well. So this is where understanding how those documents needs to be chunked and vectorized is going to be a key activity. And let's say I'm a user who wants to search through specific contract and understand whereby if I have a NDA with organization A. When that query comes in from a user, and this is where the text generation flow happens. This is where the embedding model is going to translate that query into vector representation, which then searches through the vector database and generates context out of it. And that context is provided along with the prompt that you will write to get will get passed on to a large language model, and then you get your output. Now, sounds very cumbersome, right? There are a lot of things that you have to worry about chunking and moving the documents, et cetera. Well, that is where Amazon Bedrock knowledge bases come into picture. Knowledge bases gives you that, it removes that undifferentiated heavy lifting and gives you the choice to choose a right embedding model, choose a right chunking strategy. It is natively integrated with a choice of vector stores, and then you can spin up your managed RAG architecture to understand your document workflows. The important aspect about why knowledge bases is the improved accuracy, and this is core. This is a core architecture and core point to any time you want to build semantic search-related capabilities, or you want to understand, analyze the large documents. Understanding how well your documents are chunked is important, and that is why knowledge bases offers you different. It offers you a control over your chunking strategy, such as hierarchical chunking. If a document has parent-child relationship, it will automatically chunk the document together in such a way that that hierarchy is maintained. So when you are searching through that document, the document accuracy improves because you have that hierarchy maintained. Similar to semantic search, especially in the legal documents, semantic chunking capability is extremely important because the document has related text scattered throughout the document. So the idea here would be grouping that text and then storing that in the specific chunk. Now, there are a lot of features that knowledge bases offer in terms of improving our accuracy, which I cannot go in the next 3 minutes. But there is a session that I will have it listed that tomorrow is happening, which goes through the deep dive into knowledge bases and how to improve accuracy. I would highly recommend you attend that. So let's take a look at a couple of architectures real quick. So our architecture with respect to a contract and tech process is something that pretty much all organizations have, whether it's a legal or whether you are an enterprise who has a legal department. So let's put what we learned, which is when you have matters, turning the matter management or contract management into a knowledge management. So let's put those learnings into a practice where we have taken the executed contracts, and then we are not only doing the executed contracts, but we are extracting the metadata and attaching that metadata to the vector store. This will help when you have millions of documents and you need to understand that when I retrieve my documents from semantic search perspective, I have it filtered based on what I'm asking. So this becomes a key. These are the features that the knowledge base will support. So I have taken the list of executed contracts. I have added them, extracted the metadata, attached that metadata to vector databases, and created a knowledge base. So when a user like me who comes in and I ask, I need NDA with org A, let's say there is a conversational user interface. Now, you just heard Dr. Swami Subramanian announce agentic interfaces. There are multiple. There is prompt. There is a model routing, prompt caching, et cetera. A lot of beautiful features have come in. So using that, you can build a conversational interface, which is going to take that query, understand what the ask is, extract the specific metadata that this is NDA and the party's organization A, is going to search through the knowledge base, build the right results, and send the final response. Now, in my case, I'm saying that, well, there is no NDA with org A. Do you want to create one? And this is where you can use a conversational assistant where we haven't created a rules-based system. There is no if-else happening here. The knowledge base or the agentic approach understands from the existing executed contracts, and it learns from the standard template, and also its own inherent knowledge about how contracts work or different contracts is going to ask specific questions and get those draft contract created for a legal professional to review. Similarly, text generation RFI process, I hear there are multiple weeks that are gone in. And this is where, again, you create and execute historical RFI contracts, create a knowledge base, and search through them. And this process, actually, the screenshot that you're seeing, we have implemented this RFI process. It does save from weeks to days of generating a new RFI from previously executed RFIs, improving the productivity of employees. Now, similarly, if you have a quick way, if you have, let's say, we talked a lot about documents, but let's say you have videos and images. In those cases, you can also make those accessible. For example, you have a lot of videos where there's testimony. In those cases, using our AI service, which is Amazon Transcribe, you can transcribe the text, put that into S3, and simply put it to Amazon Q for Business, which is going to then make that accessible. And then you can quickly start looking through asking questions such as who testified and what was there. Can you summarize this testimony? Again, maintaining who has access to what, that is core and a very important conversation. So having said that, in closing, just a quick takeaways. So we learned from NetDocuments about their journey and how they're bringing user efficiency and what their roadmap is to build more. So I want you to think about the top 3 use cases and situations that can improve your business process or workflows, and what brings the most value in generative AI use cases. What's the ROI associated with those use cases? So as a final ask, I want you to leverage the AWS community and start working on those. You have access to maybe account essays, you're working with the partners, or if you're not clear about the mechanisms, please reach out to us. We can help you put in the right direction. But this space, as John earlier said, it is expanding. It is for you to remain viable and competitive. This is going to be an important task that you have to do, is you have to you want to adopt generative AI, improve efficiencies, optimize your workflows, build automated workflows, and take advantage of it. That's it for now from me. Here are the upcoming sessions if you want to take a picture of it. AIM305 is where you can go learn more about the RAG architectures and how to improve the accuracy. Thank you very much for staying with us today. And please complete the survey. Your feedback is important so we can improve. Thank you very much.